Well, hey, friends, good to have you joining us today. Bit of a snow day here in Charlotte, or should we call it an ice day? Whatever you guys want to call it. So we wanted to do something a little bit different rather than just watching, a sermon from a stage. We're obviously not on a stage right now. And so we've been in a series where we're talking about experiencing Jesus. We've called it Reset and how we experience Jesus. And I have someone really, really close to me who has had, some experiences with Jesus. And what we thought we would do is sit and talk about what it's like, kind of the ups, the downs, and, just really get to what it's like to experience Jesus. So I have my wife with me. So, hey, babe, um, good to have you here. And if you've missed out on my wife, she spends a lot of time over in the Littles building. Although with some of the volunteers coming through, my wife has made her way over into the worship center. So it's good to have you here, babe. So I I thought I would introduce you a little bit, and because we grew up in two different worlds. So I grew up in the suburbs of Atlanta. Looks like a lot of the suburbs in Charlotte. My wife grew up, and I thought I would share this a little bit. Um,
Mhm.
this is how you grew up, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So what are we looking at right here?
Instead, this would be the view from standing on the front steps of the house I grew up in, looking back to the barn where I would have to go every morning and do my chores, which my chores were to feed all of the bottle calves and the pail calves. And that is where we had about, I don't know, probably 80 or more milking cows. And then the silos and the different, you know, barn buildings and things, so yeah.
Yeah, and this is a much older picture. I took this, probably 14 years ago or so. No,
Mhm.
15, maybe 20 years ago, baby. Ugh. I took this
Yeah.
a while back, but it was a while after her growing up here. And beyond that is just farmland all around in there. But today we're experiencing a snow day here in Charlotte. And I know we get a lot of people who come from the north and are like, hey, I don't know why you guys completely shut down. And I know we showed this picture at Christmas Eve, but this is typical snow in Wisconsin here, isn't it?
Well, that is definitely the snow that I grew up in. I know with all of the different changes, they don't typically see snow like that very often anymore. However, yes, that was how we pretty much lived from Halloween to Easter. I remember hunting for Easter eggs in the snow a couple of different years. So yeah, a lot of my growing up years was surrounded by major snow.
Yeah. And I know I've talked to you that right there, even though I look at that and go, that is crazy. That's not even a big snow for you guys. Uh, I
But that was substantial. You know, we've had larger, but yeah, that was substantial. When my grandfather was growing up, he told stories of snows so big that they would climb out of his second-story bedroom window and walk to that barn that we showed earlier in the photos. So, yeah, it is crazy.
yeah, I can. We went, just let you a little bit in on us and our marriage. We did go up one time, and we have pictures. I just didn't have any way to grab them here. We went up one time in the wintertime, in January. So about this time in January,
Mhm,
and the snow was literally up to my chest.
mhm.
And I tried to walk to that barn. I couldn't even make it to the barn. It's a lot of effort to walk through snow that's that deep. But I think that thing, like, there's snow, and then it was between 18 and 20 below zero while we were there. And it was that way the whole time. One day it got above zero. It went to one for the high. It was below zero the whole week that we were there. And I told her, I can't remember if I told your family or not, but I know I told you, like, I will never be back in January. And guess what? Never, never back in January. So yeah, and then I bring the girl down south, and now you've adjusted. I think you would die if you were up there now.
It would take a lot to readjust to being in the cold environment because, growing up there, we skied in jeans, no snow pants, just jeans and a jacket and hat and gloves, like, it so you adjust to wherever you live very, very
And you
quickly. So
wonder
it
why
takes a
I
while.
tease that Wisconsin is the redneck state of the of the Midwest.
Hey, hey now. I thought we were gonna be talking about Jesus here.
Jesus knows you guys are a bunch of rednecks up there.
I prefer the term farm girl.
Okay, whatever makes you feel comfortable, sweetheart. So, again, we've been in a series where we've been talking about this idea of experiencing Jesus, and we did some prayer exercises as a part of each one of those 3 messages, and we would have done another one today, except, we're not there. So, there's something valuable, though, about prayer like that. I know how I was raised. I actually know how you're raised, so we can prompt. Prayer for me, and I assume it was for you, was all about what you said, how you bring your requests to the Lord, and how you do, you know, whatever. And so, really, how I was probably inadvertently trained is the only type of prayer is a list of what your needs are. Like, you're gonna thank God for who He is, and all the praise and all that. And then here's my list. I need this, 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 and this. Thank you, Jesus. Done. Move on. And was that similar? Am I spot on or similar in prayer? How you were raised?
That was definitely probably the most common prayer that I was raised around. I had a little bit different experience than you in that from, like, I don't know, age 11 or 12, Sunday nights were prayer service. So while there was a short message, the majority of our time as a church was spent in collect individual prayer and also collective prayer. So one of the ways that I actually learned to pray, which I think is a great way, was I was invited up as a very young teen into a circle of women raging in all ages. Of course, my perspective at the time, I thought they were all old because they all had, mostly gray hair. And therefore they were very
Watch it.
godly and very yeah, they were very holy and they heard from God on the regular. Now, I would say their prayers were uh very authentic and they did not hold back. And so it was like, it was almost warrior type prayers. I mean, these were mama bears that, prayed about everyone's everyone. And so that was a little bit more than what we kinda call the cry of the heart prayers, which is what you were describing. So maybe just a little bit, a few different types of prayers I was exposed to, but very similar to you.
Yeah, that is true. And I think you wound up being mentored way more than I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
so we're going to talk a little bit about how we got to and evolved in our relationship with Jesus. Um, I've told my story before, and my story is pastoring, our church in Georgia, and then using or things not going well. Let's just say that. And we resign. We take everyone that was a part of that church. We merge them with another church that's in the area. And I sat for a while questioning everything, just
Yes,
rebuilding my faith because
I
the only
remember.
I I know it was very hard on you. My wife spent many a night crying in the tub, believing I wasn't a Jesus follower anymore.
I
And
was concerned.
um, but yeah, just kind of the only thing that I was certain of that there was a God. And my engineering background, you would think would lead me to believe otherwise. I'm too logical to look around and go, this can't be coincidence. So that's kind of all I had. But coming out of that, we kind of went through a difficult season. It's what brought us to Charlotte. Honestly, it
Yes.
was we just needed to get out. We needed a fresh start. I mean, I needed a fresh start. I needed to get out. My wife would have been happy to stay, but so we got here, and in getting here, got introduced to a ministry. At the time, it was called Ransomed Heart. Now it's called Wild at Heart, which is akin to the book that John Eldridge, the guy who started this, wrote. So you'll find it now, Wild at Heart. And that kind of really began both of our journeys, really.
It definitely began the journey of what you and I call listening prayer, which is very much along the lines of this past series and the corporate prayers where we've been leading others through opportunities to really experience Jesus in a more fully way instead of just head knowledge. Like, no, he can like show you stuff or talk to you or give you a word that is, means something incredible to you and him, and it becomes this thing. So, yes, when we got to Charlotte, that was when the both of us began down this journey. So, man, that was what, 2008 or
2008,
9?
2008.
Yeah. Now, both of us did have an experience, a significant experience where we did encounter Jesus differently, but on the same trip. And you told that story back in December, right? This,
Yeah, down at the church in Pensacola.
yeah,
Yeah.
a revival down in Pensacola. We both had an incredible experience there, but the ongoing conversational life with Jesus, we began that journey once we got to Charlotte.
Yeah, and so surprisingly enough, even with the experience that I shared, I was still able to have to tear down my faith and reconstruct it.
Mhm.
So upon rebuilding, what we began to realize is just how tangible and real Jesus is. He's not just someone like you pray to or you talk to, like your imaginary friend or something. Um,
Right.
he really is there. He really can speak. You can learn his voice. He
Mhm.
can show you some pretty amazing things. Sometimes they are funny. I'll tell one so on Wednesday night, we led a group of people uh, through about an hour long guided prayer session. Some of it was with some teaching, and then we got into praying. And one of the first things in any of these listening prayer sessions that I like and have been taught to do, and I like it myself, is to ask people, how does Jesus see you?
Mhm.
One, picture Jesus being there. That's always good. And then what does he think of you? And how does he see you? So during that time on Wednesday night, I, j- I just had the funniest picture that just popped in my mind. Jesus, how do you see me? And it was more of a movie playing than just a picture. So I was inside of a trampoline. Actually, the trampoline that used to exist in our backyard, babe. That was the one I had for reference. But it wasn't me as an adult. It was kind of me as a kid. And I was bouncing on the trampoline trying to do, I couldn't tell a single or a double forward flip, as you do when you're a kid. And I was failing. So I would flip and I would land on my face and I'd flip and I land. And I looked over and Jesus was standing outside the trampoline, much like, I did with our kids as a parent. And he is just laughing. Just laughing. But it was more of a laugh and kind of looking at me and going, you'll get it. Go again. Like almost, come on, go again. And that was the picture that I had. And I think that so you were asked, like, what do you get out of that? Like, that's like, I don't know that I get anything out of it other than, he enjoys seeing me learn new things. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, but you said that you had asked him, Jesus, how do you see me? Right?
Mhm. Yep.
And so that's why I asked for the rest of it, because interpretation is key. And I think, as we're talking through these stories, and the same thing I would admonish you is those moments are precious, right? So write them down, put them somewhere, but then don't just stop there. Keep the conversation going and say, that was so much fun, Jesus. I have some ideas what you might have been trying to relate to me through this, right? And you just explained a couple of those. But is there something else you wanted me to have from that moment? Is this a piece of a larger conversation you'd like to have with me?
Yeah, I think what you're describing is when you spend time with Jesus, even afterwards, remain curious.
Yes.
Look at everything and go, let's say you had a picture. I know you're fascinated with red tennis shoes. So let's say you had a picture in your head and it's somebody in red tennis shoes and their shoelaces that are untied. I mean, what an odd detail, if that would have been. So that would immediately set off my curiosity. Like, why the red shoes? Why are they untied? Like, why am I noticing that? Because I wouldn't have to. I think that's always, I think that's what you're talking about, getting really curious. And we did have River on Wednesday. I created essentially a journal sheet to kind of show them how to do this, you know, each step along the way. How did Jesus? So what did you, was it a picture? Was it a word? Was it a feeling? Was it, what was it? If it was nothing, that's okay. You can write, I didn't,
Yep.
I didn't feel anything.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think
Which
you're
is
right.
which
Journaling.
which that point right there, I didn't feel anything. That comes up with so many people in the beginning of learning this journey, myself included. It still happens, you know? And early in our journey, that was really discouraging for me. Because I'm like, I'm hearing about all these amazing encounters, right? I'm hearing about all the steps, and one of the steps is don't put any pressure on it. How? You know, I desperately wanna hear something from Jesus. How am I not supposed to put a pressure on that moment? And
Yeah, and
then
I
the
agree. That is
longest.
really hard because that's been coming up as we've been doing this activity is how do you not bring some level of pressure? Like everybody around me is hearing something, sensing something, especially if you're in a group setting where you can share. It really gets hard if you have nothing. Here's what I would encourage you. If it's nothing, don't fake it. Don't try to create something.
Mm-mm.
Because when you do have that experience, it's going to be harder for you to trust the experience. So you just kind of, and what I would say to someone who's feeling nothing or I didn't hear anything, what did you noticed something? Even if it wasn't, what we're talking about, pictures and things, you noticed something, you know, the dryer keeps running, or I can hear the dog upstairs panting. Like what you notice things if you slow down and you're still. The reason I say point those out is because this is a discipline, it's a skill. So you're starting to notice things that were going on all the time and you never noticed, but now you notice. I used an illustration before. Hey, do you know birds? They like chirp and sing all day long, but you kind of only notice them like in the morning. Now they are louder in the morning. I get it, but they actually do that all day long. We just get
Mhm.
busy and we don't hear them anymore.
Well, this may be jumping ahead too, but I think one of the greatest things that, in learning this process, and I've been fortunate enough to follow some amazing mentors and all in this. So, lots of questions, lots of examples of how this can play out. One of the most recent ones that really comforted me was, if you take your arm, I'll hold it up here, and you feel your arm through your sleeve, you can you can feel a sensation, right? You feel something. It might be kind of vague, but you feel something. But if you pull your sleeve back and then you feel your arm, oh, no, that's a completely different sensation, right? And so the metaphor is drawing out the fact that the old saints often talked about getting to a quiet place with Jesus for just a little piece of consolation, just a little bit of solace. And that was enough to carry them through that day. And then other days, it would be, you know, sensing and hearing and experience Jesus on a completely different level,
Hmm.
but being okay with either. So I know the other morning I was, I had some time that I had set aside to just, like you've been telling, just sit in quiet and, really, really start with just telling Jesus that I love him and then following that sensation, right, of love. Where does that pop up for me? And I got the briefest little, like, almost like a little wave of the sensation of love and peace that I knew wasn't me, right? You can tell when it's not you. And I was like, "Oh, can I have a little more of that?" And then the world crashed in on me and, it was gone. It was fleeting. And I was like, okay, but I'm okay, right? It was enough for that time.
Yeah. Yeah. I want people to, we might talk here, if we got a few minutes and you kept listening this far, maybe you will, um, about some of the more extraordinary kind of experiences. But I would say the vast majority, at least of mine, and unless you just haven't told me about all the extraordinary ones, the vast majority of times you have with Jesus as well are rather ordinary. They're, I mean, you get those moments, you get pictures, you get things, but um, I want people to also know there is something even beyond that, that
Mhm,
that Jesus can take you and um, take you to incredible places, and
mhm.
um, sometimes those times are healing, and sometimes those times are encouraging. Um, we had a
And sometimes they can be a little painful too,
well, I was gonna
but he's
say
never
I
it's in a
had
healing game.
yeah, you and I don't remember how many years ago this was, not many, sitting on the front porch, walking through what is called a manual prayer. You guys can look that up.
Yes.
And basically, it's a guided prayer session where someone guides and another person sits. And um, I had an experience with Jesus where he took me straight back to high school.
Yeah.
And it was a moment that a wound happened, um, that I knew it was there, but so in this experience, I go right back into a room. I wanted to be a Navy fighter pilot. I had spent my whole ninth grade, 10th grade, or even before that, 8th grade, ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. This is all I want to do. And I had taken the SAT scores and scored well enough to get into their school, which is in Annapolis. It's called Annapolis because it's in Annapolis, Maryland. And so my test scores were high enough for Annapolis. My ASVAB scores were high enough. I scored exactly what I needed to do. And I'm like, here we go. I am getting in. And I'm standing in a room with my commanding officer who was, I want to say he was a lieutenant. And so I'm standing there. This is the adult. This is the adult that's in charge of the ROTC program. As he informs me that, being a fighter pilot was off the table because there were a couple of issues. One was vision, which I was kind of borderline on. I have an eye injury that has left me with a cataract that hopefully in a couple of weeks I'm going to have removed. But beyond that, the thing that he was hoping, and this is what he relayed to me, I was hoping you would have grown more. You're too short. And so
Yeah.
in my young life, that was a devastating moment. And so during our prayer time, this because you were guiding it, like I went there.
Yeah.
And
You literally in your mind were back in that moment, reliving that conversation.
oh
And
yeah,
that's when we asked, I mean, through the guided session, Jesus, where are you?
right. And that was, so if you can picture being in a moment like VR, like you look around and you're in the moment, just like in a virtual reality experience. And
Mhm.
Jesus was standing right next to me as that news is hitting me. And what he showed is he was standing there because zero emotion. Like, okay, military, we do not show emotion. We're not going to, so like zero emotion. And Jesus is standing next to me, bawling.
Yeah, because inside your heart
Oh, I
was
was
taking
crushed.
a
Yeah,
beating.
I was crushed. And getting emotional just kind of thinking about it. But like that, to see that he was there, not only was he there, he was bawling for me because he knew how devastating, that news was. And so that's an instance where an experience with Jesus where um with a guide and a guided prayer experience, that's where we went. And the thing that happened for me out of all of that, not just noticing where Jesus was, is that began a real healing experience for that moment.
Yeah.
I buried that moment. Honestly, I'd
Mhm.
forgot completely about that moment. Your brain does
Mhm.
that. And
Typically, yeah.
yeah, and in being in that moment, um, it doesn't, I won't say it doesn't affect me, that's wrong, but it doesn't have power over me anymore.
Mhm.
Because
But
feelings of
it
failure and inadequacy, they all started right then. And
right.
you know, was hard. So
And so that became a wound, that became a target for the enemy, that anything that came close to that would trigger all kinds of, like, self-protective measures and all kinds of things that go on in your inner world. That particular type of prayer is what we call inner healing. It came through an experience with Jesus, though, where he showed you
mm,
a picture, and he also revealed to you where he was with you in that moment. I mean, the Bible says he never leaves us nor forsakes us, but it is something really special when these kinds of cool experiences happen and you get to see him show up like that. And it is healing. The other thing that happens often, though, that we should say is, since then, you've had several instances in the same kind of theme where Jesus continues to heal because that was such a huge theme in your life, right? So it's like an onion, we keep going back for deeper and deeper healing. There's other times when we have experiences with Jesus where it's just kinda everyday stuff, like you were saying, Jesus is funny, you and the trampoline, or, there's some very tender moments with
Oh, my
Jesus.
favorite, it's not my story. He tells it in a book. I believe it's in his book. I know he's talked about it. So the person that really set us on our journey, his name is John Eldridge, and he is a big fly fisher. He
Mhm.
lives in Colorado. He's a really outdoorsy kind of guy, and he had gone out to go fly fishing because the weather was perfect for it and everything. And he was frustrated because he wasn't catching fish.
Wasn't
I'm
catch.
saying this because this really sets up for the Jesus that I know now.
Right,
And
right.
so he's not catching anything. So he's like, well, at least I'll get a cigar out of this thing. So he lights up one of his cigars, and he's sitting on a rock complaining about the day, about not catching anything, not doing anything, and complaining to Jesus, not just mumbling out loud. And I love the phrase that he got back from Jesus. He said, it was like he saw Jesus look straight at him and say, John, just take another puff.
Gonna let
Like,
you.
just calm down. And so he does, right? He sits and he continues to enjoy his cigar. And then all the elements came together, and the fishing experience that he thought he was going to have, he actually wound up having. I think that's Jesus. Like, can you just relax, calm down?
Mhm.
You know, it'll be all right. I know. I don't know. I really wouldn't ask a whole lot of details. I know you've had an experience where you've had a healing moment as well. Without giving the specificities of it, because that I know is deeply personal. But yeah,
Yeah.
you do you want to tell that experience or no? Just leave it as, yeah, I had an experience.
I think I don't know if I can tell that one without weeping yet, but I will tell another one. Several years back in the midst of a very tough spot, um, I I had spent many days just me and Jesus and a bunch of cows, go figure.
Farm girl and the cows.
Yeah,
Which we
me
found
and
out
Jesus
someone
and
at church has baby, like the small cows that you like. Like,
oh, the Highland cows, yeah.
yeah, like that. Okay. Anyway, side note, golf.
O Off topic. Anyway, it was a lot of grief, let's just say that. Jesus and I were processing through a lot of grief. And, so I had been, you know, doing the things that I'm learning so that I can experience and hear Jesus and have these encounters, and every day is a little bit different, and it was a heavy week. It was a hard week. And so I'm actually, out in the countryside driving around, and I invite Jesus into the car seat beside me in the truck. And I was like, "Hey, I know this is weird. I'm just going to pretend that you're here with me, and let's just hang out and see where this goes." So, I'm the person driving around that looks like they're talking to themselves, but I'm really talking to Jesus. And, it was one of those moments where I was clearly in control of driving, but in the back of my mind is this sudden picture, and it's Jesus and I, and we're sitting on this log, in a field, and, he does one of these moves, and he kinda leans over and bumps my shoulder and goes, "Can I tell you a joke?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Jesus, don't tell jokes. Like, this is serious. I'm hurting. This is very serious. And he's like, "I think we should lighten the mood." Said, "Okay." Like, how you gonna tell Jesus no, right? And he told the corniest, I wish I could remember it. I can't remember it. But he told the corniest dad joke. I mean, the corniest, To the point I'm
I think
laughing
that's
with
awesome.
tears
So
coming down my
Jesus
face.
himself tells dad jokes, people. I'm telling you. Tell
Yes.
your kids that. Like, Jesus is into dad jokes.
And it was so funny because here's the thing. It was so healing in that moment to be able to laugh because I hadn't laughed in months. And it was like, okay, joy's possible once again. And it was just the most perfect thing ever. It's very precious to me. Sorry. Gotta get a tissue.
You thought you were going to escape emotion by telling a different
Uh,
story. Because
Dad
we were talking
jokes.
about another story last night, and
Yeah, yeah.
this is what
Can't do
happened.
that
So that's
one.
why she wasn't going to tell that one. So here's the thing. Jesus will take you back to moments, not just for moments' sake. He will take
Right.
you back for healing. And it's, hey, let me show you from my perspective where I was, what I see. And it's tremendously healing. Even in, like, mine was a memory that had been shoved and buried.
Mhm.
That was the one he wanted to go to. It makes sense to
Mhm.
me now because that was like the first domino that fell and started knocking down all the other dominoes. So
Yep.
yeah, we're going to go back and deal with that one. But at the same time, you can have experience with Jesus that are, I don't know, lighthearted, playful, beyond dad jokes. Um,
Mhm.
I know you had an experience with Jesus, and I don't know, there's like details in this you can't share, but that I'm envious of this one. This one, I'm like, okay,
Is
you know,
this are you alluding to the daisy walk?
yeah, I am.
Mhm. Okay. So, again, you know. So, oh, this one's so much fun. So, I'm in a prayer time with Jesus, and I feel him very near. It's very interesting the longer that you practice this, right? The longer that you practice this, you get a sense of when the old saints would call it the veil between us and heaven gets very thin, feels very thin, feels like you could just reach out and seriously touch the other side of things. And so I can sense that in this prayer time that Jesus was very near and he wanted to spend time with me, which was my goal. I wanted to spend time with him. But I had also been praying for a friend of mine to experience Jesus in this way. And so I very audaciously said, I can't go with you today until my friend gets to experience you too. How dare I tell Jesus that? So, in an instant, I see a
So to
picture.
be clear, so everybody understands this, you're in a prayer time. Jesus has shown up. You
Yes.
know that he's there. He
Yes.
is wanting to take you somewhere and give you an experience, and you tell
Yes.
Jesus,
I can't go.
unless my friend, you come for her and she gets to have an experience, then I'll go with you.
Yes. Yes. So
That's pretty
that's what
bold.
I do.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I know. I'm crazy. Anyway, so the instantly that I'm in the middle of a meadow with Jesus, and it's very much like again a picture, an art picture, a movie, and it's little me. So probably 6-year-old me. So little Jody, and I'm holding hands with Jesus, and all I can see in the picture is really from the back, and we're walking through this beautiful meadow of my favorite flowers, which are daisies. And we're just swinging hands like little girls would do, and I'm just talking Jesus's ear off, right? But in the back of my head, I'm like, "But Jesus," I said, "I can't go. Are you taking care of my friend?" And the camera, so to speak, the movie pans back, and my friend in little girl form is holding Jesus's other hand. And so it was in that moment when I saw that complete picture where I said, "Okay, Jesus, I'm in wherever you want to go."
So to be
And
clear,
then
like you're seeing from behind it, it's like a guy holding a little girl in each hand on
2
on
little
either
girls'
side.
hands.
And yeah,
Yes. And I knew the other little girl was my friend. And I said to Jesus in that moment, "Okay, I know you've got her. So wherever you want to go today, I'm good." And then that picture left and Jesus and I had a very sweet time of some other things. But yeah, it was that that is so much fun.
yeah, yeah. So I think the thing to kind of, you know, make sure everybody understands as we kind of come to an end of our time. Jesus, we say this in church a lot. Jesus is real. You can know that Jesus is real. Like you don't. That doesn't have to be something that you just take on like in blind faith or something. Like you can experience it, um,
Mhm.
and you can have an experience with the one who came and died for you, and you do things, amazing things, see things, get healing. All of these things are possible. And
Mhm.
we live in a world that tries to tell us that things, supernatural things like this, are not possible. And I understand that. I mean, if you believe that, I understand that. And you can hold that belief until you can't. You have an experience that you can't explain. Um, that's what's possible.
Mhm.
And honestly, that's what I want to see for everybody that's at our church and around our church. I don't want you just coming to a church service. I want you to have an experience with the one who loves you. Uh, that will do for you what 1,000 church services can't do for you. And that's seriously what I would love, for all of you to be able to recognize. So thanks for letting us share about our prayer times and about a couple of our stories. And hey, if you got questions and you want to put those in the comments, Joey and I we'll get through those. We'll try to answer some of those things. And if you're live at our church on a Sunday, just hey, you said this. I would love to hear more about, and just ask, and we would love to be able to share. So
Hey, can I say one more thing?
yeah, you can.
I think the caveat that I would add is this is available to everyone, right? The
Hmm.
We don't chase experiences with Jesus to chase the experience. This comes The experiences are birthed out of a love of Jesus and also opening ourselves up to receive his love, which is so difficult for some people to imagine that the God of the universe actually does love them, right? Because they have all the reasons why that wouldn't be possible. So again, we don't chase experience for experience's sake, but out of oneness with Jesus. And I would say it is the crux of what people talk about. It is the difference between knowing Jesus loves you and heart knowledge, knowing, right?
Hmm. Yeah, good point. And it's available for everyone. And here's the thing.
Mhm.
You can believe that that's not true. It doesn't change the fact that it is true. That this is possible for you. When you begin living out of that truth and reordering your life around that truth, that's a game changer. And it really will lead to the life to the full that Jesus has promised. When Jesus said, "Hey, come to me, all of you who carry heavy burdens and are weary." And then he says, "And I will give you rest." This is how you experience that.
Mhm.
It's that simple. So Well, hey, babe, thanks for hanging out and doing a little bit of a podcast with us here. And, guys, go, I don't know, enjoy the ice day. I think we needed to be a further up into the mountains in order to have a snow day. We have some friends who have another home up in the mountains, and I'm sure they are getting blasted, this day. So go, however it is, enjoy the day, have some coffee, hot chocolate with the kids, and just know, hey, we love you. We'd love to be able to talk with you, chat with you, and really look forward to seeing you guys next time when we get together. So may God be with you. May his face shine upon you, and may you have a blessed week. Love you guys.